Welcome to Georgia.
So we just checked out of Florida and drove the 4 hours ride to Georgia, Savannah.
It is Sunday, July 10th.
And it was already very hot at this time. And I've always wanted to visit Savannah, Georgia.
You like these trees?
Go-tos. Yes, these are very big oak trees that kind of like hung and drape and grow. And you have all this moss that kind of just hangs from them. It's all sorts of romantic.
So you wanted to visit
Bonaventure Cemetery, and this is over on the a bit on the north side of the city.
So this is one of the oldest?
Yeah, the oldest cemetery in all of Savannah. It used to be a plantation, and of course the family who owned it had their family plot in it, and as Savannah grew and became populated, more and more of their residents were buried here.
Do we know what century?
1700s.
Okay.
Yep. And I think one of the oldest one is a little girl's plot. She's one of the more famous buried there, that people actually tend to leave dolls at her site.
It's pretty big, actually.
It's humongous, actually. And one of the more popular interred there is John Mercer, and he was the composer for Moon River.
Okay.
That very famous song. But he's also the son of the owners of the Mercer House, which is one of the bigger mansions over in Savannah, Georgia. And again, Savannah looks all sorts of hauntingness to it. And even during daylight, there was just a different sort of mood here. It was peaceful enough, but you kind of didn't want to get lost and isolated by yourself in the Bonaventure Cemetery for some reason.
I wonder if they film any movies here.
So it was also part of the book cover for Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Okay.
That was a book that I've read in the either late 90s, and I actually was rereading it en route to Savannah again, just to reacclimatize. But it's a very good book about the descriptions of Savannah society, protocols and culture, but of course it highlighted a murder scene that happened in the Mercer house years ago. But with the Bonaventure Cemetery, they're very good with all these different statues and marbles and obelisks that they have.
There's J.
So
Mercer.
this is the John Mercer section. So they did have these specific sites for the famous areas.
And then we went for lunch
At the Pirates House.
Another old
structure,
old
if not the
structure.
oldest building still standing.
1754 it was built.
And it was featured in Treasure Island, the book by Robert Stevenson, years and years ago.
So actual pirates would eat here.
Yeah, so the port is just actually a stone throws away. They would, ship in, and they would do their trades here. And one of the more lurid tales about this place is they would actually have some men drugged, and then they would imprison those men. There's a tunnel underneath this house a long time ago, and they would drag those drugged men over to their ships, and those men will wake up and they're already en route to more foreign areas where they're becoming enslaved.
Oh, I see.
So that was one of the lurid stories of the Pirates House. But now it's really even a family-friendly, kid-friendly kind of restaurant establishment. The meal was buffet, although you can also order from a menu as well.
Yeah.
I tried their Georgia peach drink for lunch. It was yummy.
And they carded you.
I know. And the buffet is very southern cooking. So it was like beans and okra, lots of those side vegetables like spinach stew, deep fried fish,
deep fried chicken,
and they also had grilled chicken, of course, and they had
these
corn.
fun pirate hats.
Yes.
And mustache.
Exactly. So there was he had fun, I thought. He had a burger though. He didn't want to try the buffet.
Yeah. Which is fine. That's an eye patch he's trying to take off.
Yeah, so I know parts of it has already gone under restoration, but it's just interesting to note how, old structures really held up after even over 300 years old.
So this is what we ate.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they also had macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, that was good.
Yep.
So there's and then after it also came with dessert. So there's the key lime pie and the peach cobbler.
And then upstairs they had a gift shop.
Yeah, so it was all, of course, Pirates House related items.
Very
t-shirts,
commercialized now.
Postcards, magnets, cups. I only like the postcards because I usually put stuff like that in the journals that I have for the boys.
But they have some cool t-shirts here.
I know. I'm surprised Tristan didn't buy any.
Some stickers.
For kids, a kids area.
This was out of order. It probably moves.
Yes. So it's, again, a good tourist spot to go to. One of the places to eat when visiting Georgia.
They had coins.
Yep.
2 for $1. And those ones are $3, the bigger ones.
All these different shirts and their selections. So it's a pretty extensive supply of goods that's available in the upstairs gift
Yes.
store.
It's
But
kind of
we were already
bare
having a
looking.
pretty late lunch at this point.
It is.
And for Sunday, I didn't realize a lot of their commercials, stores, and museums were closed early at 5 p.m. So, I was trying to see if I can go catch some of them before they close.
And you do. You'll see later on in this video some museum footage. Here is Maria's room.
Oh, but only Maria's room?
Yeah,
That's
Maria's
so
room.
rare.
They didn't have Nick's room.
Wow, this is a lot of coverage on the pirate's house.
I was just looking around. Just looking around. Some more shirts. That's
yeah,
a
some
cool
of them
one.
are nicely designed. That's, again, I thought Tristan was definitely going to get himself a shirt.
Oh, and then you finally come up.
Oh, what are they doing downstairs?
I'm not sure. And then we just took a shot outside. So this is our hotel that we stayed in, Hotel Indigo.
And right at the historic district, so closer to the Riverwalk. And that was an interesting crate-looking internal elevator.
Yeah.
And
we were walking by and we saw
I
there's
know.
upstairs. People have stairs.
I know
Winding stairs.
some of the suites have winding second floors. Ours didn't. Ours was a corner unit.
It was like an L shape.
Yeah, and it had 2 queens and a sofa pull-out. And it was okay spacious. Always bigger than New York, of course. And so Tristan and I were the only ones who went out to go to the art galleries while Nick Mason and Hayden stayed indoors. It's threatening to rain, so we're like, okay, we have to quickly go. This is the Telfair Academy of Arts and Science. It was actually owned by the Telfair family, and this house used to be their mansion.
Oh.
But upon the death of one of the inheritors, she bequeathed it to the city of Savannah and said, you can have all of our art and all those that we collected, and it could be enjoyed by the people and other visitors to Savannah. So they have now made it, of course, their contribution to the culture of Savannah. So they are definitely the very first art museum in southern USA.
Oh, wow.
And it was, I think, either the late 1700s or early 1800s. But this was also around the time when other philanthropists were giving houses and big mansions over to cities as well, so that they can house their private collections. So like Carnegie's Art Museum in Pittsburgh was also being opened, and also the Philadelphia Art Museum.
Mansion to museum.
Yeah, mansions to museums. So the regular people, of course, they've never seen art displayed like this, nor could they own it, of course. So it's actually quite a gift that these very wealthy patrons were giving and endowing to the city.
So all the art in this museum
It used to belong to the Telfair family.
Oh, just one family.
Yes. So they were a merchant family, and this was actually their family tree of sorts. Mm-hmm. And the sisters.
But was it all from one house or from different houses?
This is just their one house.
Oh, geez.
So they have other houses too that they also gave to arts and science.
Oh, okay, to this museum.
But this one is the one house. So I think
I see.
one of the sisters owned this house, and ultimately upon her death, she gave it to Savannah.
The wallpaper is interesting.
So this is one of the few rooms that's still laid out according to how it was when the house was inhabited by the residents. And this was their formal dining room area. But the rest of the house is basically already decorated as if it's for an art museum, with just their walls hung with various paintings that they've collected. So they actually had an art collector that they hired to go to Europe in the 17 and 1800s to go look for interesting art. And what I thought interesting is Khalil Gibran. He's one of the poets out there. He's American, Lebanese at birth, and I've read his works. I didn't realize that he was also an artist. So they actually had about 91 pieces of his artworks from his lifetime, and I thought that was interesting. I didn't realize, again. So this Telfair Museum family had a lot of his artwork, so they were huge fans of Khalil Gibran. And so this is the second floor, and I thought this was a very cool room. It started to rain.
Those pillars, like, were they originally?
Yep. These were originally there. I think this could have been a ballroom way back when. And again, that was the largest painting that they have over to the right. Mm-hmm. It was the Grey Prince of Cremasy. And again, just a stunning room. I don't know many of these artworks. They aren't by the usual European artists that we're familiar with during that time period. But again, they're very outstanding also in their creative compositions. That artwork over there with the 2 panels shows the lifespan of a woman.
Oh.
So from birth to death. And I just thought it was all sorts of intriguing.
What did Tristan think about all the art?
Yeah, he thought it was good too. It was cool. My main intention really was to look for the bird girl. That's a sculpture over there, and she
this one
is on the main cover of that book, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Why is she called the bird girl?
She was just a sculpture made in the early 1900s.
Is she a bird feeder?
Yeah, she's a bird feeder initially. And for that book, though, the photographer had seen the sculpture in Bonaventure Cemetery and thought she would make an interesting design because it looks like she's weighing good and evil, but that wasn't really the intention of the original sculptor. And so she became famous in that aspect because of the book that was turned into a movie in either the late 1990s or the early 2000s starring John Cusack, but she actually had no relation to the story of the book, but she became an icon. Such that when people were visiting the Bonaventure Cemetery, they were trespassing too much on the family plot who owned her. And so they requested that she be removed if the Telfair Museum can kindly showcase her over the years instead.
Yes.
So again, right beside the Telfair Museum is another previous mansion that they owned, the Telfair family, and it's now called the Jepson Museum of Modern Art.
So that was also from the Telfair.
Yeah, so all this square area, it's all from the Telfair family.
I can see the rain.
Yeah, so it was at this point quite torrential. We only had one umbrella and, nothing like Savannah in the rain, I guess. So this is Jepson Center for the Arts, and it's all the more modern artworks that's available. Sculptures.
Was this also a mansion to museum?
I think so. It was also a mansion to museum, but maybe
it's modern.
They've made it a bit more modern. I think parts of it they've renovated. So as you can see, there's all more of these glass panels that possibly wouldn't be there way back when, right? But maybe the bare bones of it had been part of a museum.
What's a blow up?
So this was an interesting exhibit. We actually didn't finish it, but because we're running out of time, it was almost so close to 5 p.m. when we rushed in basically into this museum. And a blow up items.
At least it's not so busy. It looks pretty empty because it's almost closing.
So. Well, this is what's interesting with Savannah, Georgia, given that it is a Sunday, so maybe things are a bit quieter, but the fact that there's no one around. Like Tristan and I would be walking for blocks and blocks around the squares.
You're the only ones.
And we were the only ones there. We'd see like maybe one or two other people.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this is an artist
it's like
again.
Perspectives.
And she only works in light and and mirrors. So you think that it reflects way deep within, but it's really a mirror. I don't know how she was able to curve this railroad, so that was fun. But it looks like tunnels, and of course the play with light and color. And you're right, the swirls and perspectives and how things look like they curve. So we actually didn't realize, but we actually entered the exit part of Blow Up. But even as soon as we entered it, it was quite interesting already because these are all air-generated sculptures. They're actually not hard. They are soft sculptures.
Is that The Simpsons?
That's The Simpsons. So again, it's all like pop art.
What do you mean soft? So,
they're balloons.
But you can't touch. They're balloons.
You're not supposed to touch it, but they're blow up, inflatable.
They're balloons.
Contemporary art. Yeah, they're balloons. So there's actually another room, but by the time we were trying to go to the other room, the security guards were making their rounds and closing up the area.
Is it canvas?
It's whatever a blow up is, like when there's a blow up castle, for example. That same material, like a parachute material.
I see.
So it's sturdy enough, but light enough for it to get inflated with air, and those are all like they look like they're stone, right? Like the old Chinese sort of monumental sculptures that they have. And they play homage to like Spider-Man and Batman and Mickey Mouse and Bart Simpson, but it's all air blow up. And they had a very cool art store.
There's
of course, in this museum.
Good and Evil.
And they had more souvenirs.
How much were those?
Those were 125 about. And
what about the small one?
Maybe 50.
Okay.
But Tristan and I thought that there was no space more in the van to carry for home.
So more of the sweeping trees.
Yes. So we are now walking towards Forsyth Park. There are 22 different squares.
What do you mean by
squares?
Savannah. You keep talking about
squares. So they
are
a park within the city. So they're just like...
So you're calling the park squares?
That's what they call them because they're the shape of squares usually, or a rectangle.
But it's not like a park with a playground.
No, there's no playground, but it's just grass. It's manicured. It's a manicured with trees and flowers and grass. But we wanted to go and visit the Mercer Williams house again. That was the big... character in the book, Midnight of the Garden of Good and Evil.
And this is it.
And this is it. Unfortunately, the museum itself is closed on Sundays and Mondays of July, so there was no way to visit it. It's right on Bull Street, which is another very popular street site. But all around it, it's all these Victorian era mansions that have been restored over the years so that they
these are
are
mansions.
maintained. So part of the restoration group of Savannah was to buy them from previous owners who could no longer maintain them, try to raise funds so that they can restore them, or sell them to new owners who would promise to restore them within 5 years or maintain them. So this is the largest of the squares. It's at the most south aspect of the historic district.
With the fountain.
And this is called the Forsyth Park.
Okay.
And there is this fountain that's always so popular in the 1800s. A lot of people love fountains. And
it's a nice fountain.
Yep, it has water coming out of it too. And so we just went to the most northern tip of that square, because actually it was several squares bigger than the other squares. But all these squares are named after the famous people who helped build Savannah. So there's the Oglethorpe Square, Oglethorpe being the general who designed Savannah with its squares. And again, with these squares in the middle of the city, the historic city, you are forced to drive very slowly around Savannah because a lot of it are one-way streets.
Yeah.
And it forces you to look at your area. So by now it was after 5 p.m. and we haven't had any dinner yet. So we were looking for takeout, and good thing we passed by this pizza place.
It was good.
It was good. So we just did takeout. There wasn't really much places to go to after.
This is the next day, Hotel Indigo. We're leaving.
Yes, we were leaving.
And we're going to pass by a Kroger.
Yes, so Kroger's is their local grocery store, I guess. And we were looking for the Savannah mug from
Georgia,
Starbucks.
yeah.
And the regular Starbucks didn't carry them. So they're like saying go to Kroger's.